has left the conference.
Good morning, everyone. We will move into the regular board meeting of the Regional Transportation Authority, and I call this meeting to order. And let's begin, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. I call reverberation back there.
I feel like I'm at the ballpark. Play ball.
I love it. Okay. Thank you. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Director Anderson?
Here.
Director Buchanan?
Here.
Director Colson? Director DeWitt?
Here.
Director Durante?
Here.
Director Frega?
Here.
Director Fuentes?
Here.
Director Hobson?
Here.
Director Lewis?
Present.
Director McGallis?
Here.
Director
Rainham
Melvin?
has left the conference.
Director Pang?
Here.
Director Ross?
Here.
Director Totten?
Here.
Director Troiani?
Here.
Chairman Dillard?
Here.
We have a quorum of 16 present with no absent.
Thank you, and I appreciate everybody's perfect attendance as we usually have at these meetings, and very much appreciate it. I'm always impressed by those of you who attend the committee meetings of committees you're not out even on. So that's continues to impress me. Next is the approval of the minutes held on May 19th of 2016. Are there any questions, suggestions, corrections? If not, let's have a motion. Representative Colson. Director Colson moves that we approve the minutes of May 19th, seconded by Director J.D. Ross. And Audrey, why don't you take a roll call so we've got a baseline roll call.
Okay. Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Buchanan?
Yes.
Director Colson?
Yes.
Director DeWitt?
Yes.
Director Durante?
Aye.
Director Frega?
Aye.
Director Fuentes?
Aye.
Director Hobson?
Yes.
Director Lewis?
Yes.
Director McGallis?
Aye.
Director Melvin?
Yes.
Director Pang?
Yes.
Director Ross?
Yes.
Director Totten?
Aye.
Director Troiani?
Aye.
Chairman Dillard?
Yes.
16 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next on our item or agenda item is item number 4, and this is the public comment section of the meeting. We have a speaker scheduled for today. Is Ms. Fisted here? Great, thank you, and thank you for being here. Come on up to the podium, and if you would, for the record, tell us your name, who you represent, and sort of where you live in the metropolitan Chicago area, and try to keep your comments around 3 minutes, if you would. Thank you very much for being here.
My name is Linda Thisted. I represent the Coalition for a Modern Metro Electric. I live on the south side of Chicago. Good morning. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Coalition for a Modern Metro Electric. We are a dozen organizations from the south side and south suburbs, as well as the transit community. We believe that the Metro Electric could serve a vital role in transforming the south side of Chicago and the south suburbs. The Metro Electric is different from the other metro lines. It doesn't share tracks with freight trains. It has a closed system for boarding, and it was built for rapid transit service rather than commuter service. Our goals for the Metro Electric are threefold: to run trains on the 3 Metro Electric lines for every 10 to 15 minutes throughout the day and evening, to offer low-cost fare transfers with the CTA and PACE using the Ventra card, and ultimately to create a Metro Electric line from McCormick Place to O'Hare via Union Station. Achieving these goals would have an enormous benefit to the south side and south suburbs. It would link people to jobs. The job growth in the Chicagoland area is on the north and northwest sides. More frequent rail service would give Southland residents much faster access to these jobs. It would link current businesses to customers by offering frequent access to their locations. It would make the south side and the south suburbs much more attractive to new residents. We are working with our elected officials to find funding for these goals. but we cannot go forward without the transit agency's participation. We understand that there are large costs associated with these goals. Using the Venture card in a system that has distance-based pricing is much more difficult than the CTA's flat fares. But because the Metro Electric has a closed system of boarding, it is amenable to modern tap-on, tap-off technology, which can accommodate distance-based pricing. Low-cost fare transfers with CTA and PACE will increase ridership, but will also need additional financial support. There will need to be upgraded, safer Metro Electric stations, more train sets, and a new yard to house the larger fleet. We have asked Metra to cost out the various elements of this work. The RTA has an important role to play in this effort. Metra, PACE, and the CTA need to work together to determine the best fare policies, estimate the impact on ridership of buses and trains under various scenarios, and coordinate train and bus schedules and routes. The RTA could lead the effort to create an integrated, coordinated solution to meet our goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for her at all? If not, Linda, let me tell you a couple of things. Number one, about a month ago, the mayor asked that we get focused on this, so that's good in your category. Obviously, Leanne Redden, our executive director, and I have started to speak with CTA and Metra. So discussions are starting here, and I very much appreciate citizens like yourself who have a vision and working with local community groups to make and it is a regional transportation system, better. So we are, in fact, I spoke to Chairman Oberman of Metra yesterday about this. So Marty, as he usually is on everything, is focused. He is a very deep thinker, and we're crunching numbers, and we're going to work with you on this. So if no one else has any questions, thank you for bringing it to the board's attention that this is out there as an issue, and we look forward to working with you on hopefully what is a positive solution. Thank you very much.
We have our leave behinds, which essentially summarize what I just said.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, I want to remind the public, since we are now on the internet, there is an RTA public comments procedure, and guidelines for requesting to ever speak to the board can be found on the RTA website or by contacting the Secretary, Audrey McClellan of the RTA. So next is item 5, and that's the Executive Director's Report. Leanne, good morning.
Morning. Oh, stuff. I need stuff. My arms are become stretch. All right, where we always begin. As of May 31st, the state's delinquency was $294.4 million. For the first 5 months of 2016, the cost to the RTA for essentially the short-term borrowing to support this has been about $1.1 million. So, in light of that, Springfield update, probably, again, not telling anybody much they don't already know, but the General Assembly session ended May 31st without a 2016 fiscal year or a 2017 budget passing both chambers. Consequently, if no budget amendment is reached by the end of this month, the state will have gone a full year without a state budget in place. It seems unlikely at this juncture that there will be an agreement that will result in a full fiscal year budget prior to the November elections. So there still may be an opportunity for a partial budget that could allow for certain programs to operate through the remainder of this calendar year, but we'll wait and see. I think yesterday's session was cancelled, and there's only really one more potential one left, so we'll see how that goes. On May 31st, the General Assembly passed a resolution that created ballot language for the Transportation Lockbox Constitutional Amendment. This measure would lock in revenues raised through transportation-related fees and taxes and prevent them from being diverted to other non-transportation-related purposes. The amendment will now appear on the November ballot and must receive a 3/5 of the votes on the question or a majority of votes of those voting in an election in order to pass. The legislative intent language associated with this was drafted to clarify the amendment and does not apply to the state sales tax on gasoline or any other local sales taxes on gasoline. And just one other note that I've been sort of talking about whenever this comes up in conversations with people is this is a good thing to sort of, obviously lock down transportation-related revenues that are generated by the state. But one thing that's important, and I ask people to sort of keep this in their conversations as we head to a November election, that this is no new money. And so what I worry about is that the general public will sort of think they've voted in favour to support this, which is a great thing that we should be sort of locking down these dollars, but they'll think they've solved the problem, and we haven't actually added any new money to those coffers. And so it's one step in a multi-step process that really still has to occur, and we can't let up on the sort of the pressure for a need for increase in funding. The state will be issuing $550 million in bonds. Well, actually, they issued it last week to for the State Transportation Capital Program to partially fund very important, existing capital projects to continue moving forward. So some of the ones that B just talked about in the PMO report, without monies, those ones will slow down also. So they issued those bonds. However, it's a two-step process for this one. They also needed legislation to be passed to allow them basically to create an appropriation for those funds to actually be expended. And short of an appropriation for that expenditure, they'll have issued the debt, and they won't be able to actually give it to anybody to spend if that doesn't happen by the end of this month. And so that will start impacting things from July 31st and on. The Service Board capital programs, as I said, may be further delayed, and it's unclear whether that legislation to sort of allow those funds to be expended will actually happen. So, on to the DC date. Things have slowed down significantly, so much so they adjourned yesterday until after the break. But besides that, both House and Senate had been working on the budget process without a formal budget resolution, and it is likely that this will sort of be the process that will remain through fiscal year 2017. Both the House and Senate versions of the THARD appropriations bill provide full FAST Act funding levels plus money for PTC. Both bills named the Red Purple modernization as one of the core capacity projects to receive funding within the Capital Investment Grant Program, so that's good news. The House bill actually allocated $100 million to Red Purple modernization within that funding. So the House has not scheduled a time to actually consider those appropriations, so we'll see how that plays out over the next few weeks. A Dear Colleague letter was also circulated by House Transportation and Infrastructure, Highway and Transit Committee Subcommittee Republican Chairman and Democratic ranking members requesting that the Ways and Means Committee address long-term viable highway trust fund in upcoming tax reform measures. The letter also aligns well with, obviously, our top priority of funding long-term and sustainable funding for transportation. Smith, Dawson, and Andrews, our Washington, D.C. team, reached out to the congressional delegation on behalf of the RTA to ask officers to join on and sign on to the Dear Colleague letter, and several officers signed on, including Representative Hultgren, Duckworth, and Kelly. We just did a small amendment to the capital program, but there is another thing on the horizon with respect to PACE. PACE has taken advantage of an opportunity presented by the Tollway to advance a project to construct a pedestrian bridge over I-90 as part of the work that they're doing on the Jane Addams to provide connection between inbound and outbound bus stops at Barrington Road, adjacent to I-90 there. The tollway is constructing the pedestrian bridge, and PACE is financing that construction. The bridge would be modelled after existing tollway bridge work at Randall Road and 90. That is actually the picture on this slide that you can see here. The design and construction for the bridge is about $8.4 million and is being funded by PACE's, the remainder of PACE's positive budget variance. The RTA Act requires that we hold a public hearing for projects to be added to the capital program that are greater than $5 million. This one currently isn't in the program, but like I said, it was sort of, we're trying to take advantage of the tollway, actually sort of managing and running that project for the transit system. So PACE is RTA is working with PACE to hold that public hearing on July 26th at 4 p.m. We will provide the sufficient 20-day advance notice of the hearing in newspapers and general circulation in our region, as well as posting information on the RTA website. So there'll be a forthcoming actual board action here to formally amend the capital program. And to almost wrap up, the RTA participated in the American Public Transit Association's 11th annual Dump the Pump Day, which was last Thursday. As many of you know, this is a national initiative sponsored by APTA that encourages everybody to leave their cars behind for at least one day and take public transportation. You may recall that you approved a resolution at last month's meeting. This year, RTA asked people to upload photos of themselves riding CTA, Metra, and/or PACE with a certain hashtag, and they were entered into a drawing to receive some prizes. The overall response was pretty good. You can see some photos here of some of the things that were uploaded. And we got some pretty good media coverage and quite a few followers onto our social media pages and our blog. We also were pleased to be able to team up with Beaver's Coffee and Donuts to pass out complimentary coffee in recognition of this initiative. So that truck vendor roamed around some key transit locations in the AM and was able to get some of those pictures, including the chairman was able to track them down.
Right outside of the CNA building is where
Yeah.
mine was taken.
So thanks to everyone who participated. Where do we find the beaver? He's their beaver? I assume he's their beaver, right?
Their Beaver Coffee's slogan, Madam Executive Director, is best coffee by a damn sight. So that's so the beaver was out there with and I touched his teeth. So my daughters wanted to know, what's the beaver's teeth made out of? They're big rubber teeth. So.
Big rubber teeth. Good to know for the record. So finally, I'm proud to share that the RTA has received 3 awards for our marketing and communications work since we last met. The Association of Government Communicators, we won 2nd place in an infographics category for a document that we've shared with you. It's our top 10 benefits of transit, a marketing piece that highlights the benefits of taking public transportation. In addition, we also took home 2 Publicity Club of Chicago awards, a Golden Trumpet Award for consumer marketing for the Ride On campaign, and a Silver Trumpet for special events and observances for our Stand Up for Transportation Day that we did in conjunction with the service boards and Amtrak at Union Station last year. Yeah, it was last year, right? Yes. So that's it. That's the end of my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, question, Director Melvin.
Is $8.4 million a lot for the footbridge at Barrington? Seems just a little high. Is that?
I actually no, because you've got to get the clearances over, a 6-lane tollway. We're actually it is cheaper for us because we're actually taking advantage of some of the tollways' additional constructing and contracting and project management work that they're doing. So it's. Jill, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it seems a lot for a pedestrian bridge, but it is fully enclosed. It does have to span the 6 lanes of the tollway, as well as sort of the clearances to get to the park and ride location. So it's a pretty long span bridge that has to get there.
Other questions? Yes, Director McGallis.
On the lockbox constitutional amendment, the question I had was on, do we have any historical data as far as how much has been diverted over the years out of the fund?
Yeah, it's the IDOT Road Fund. I mean, we could try to get some of that information from IDOT and
I
share it
think
back
that's
with
needed.
you.
We're trying to get an amendment made to fix a problem. We need to know what the scope of the dollar amount was, because when you say it's not new money, if it is sizable amounts that have been diverted away, it is in a way new money.
It's more
for-
money
for
coming into
us.
the fund to be dedicated
So,
to
I would just like
transportation.
to
Yes,
know
that is
if-
correct.
If we have some numbers, because I think that would be good to have if we're going to try to get it.
Yeah, and I think we'll all be seeing a lot more in the advocacy and communication space around this heading to the November election. It's sort of just in its early stages. We will work with IDOT, and actually I know the Illinois Chamber has been sort of the largest proponent or the strongest proponent so far on this to get some more data, and we can share it with you as well.
That number is mind-boggling. As Jeremy will tell you, it's a lot of money.
Which would be great to get back into the transit where it belongs.
Absolutely. You know, for years, the state never diverted, and somehow they got into the pattern of diverting within the last decade IDOT road fund monies, and it's a killer. It's a gigantic amount of money. So,
That's
and
amazing.
it was never allowed before, and when it was done, if it was done at all, it always had to be repaid, so the state, just tapped into it, and it's got to end. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and it's good for transportation, but it's still leaving holes in other elements of the statewide budget, right? So those monies were diverted to other things, and those programs will now have holes to fill, which is where sort of the challenge.
However, the money that's allocated to transit and the responsibility for having a sales tax and all the other things that go into making that work falls on the shoulders of transportation. So the public thinks, well, you got plenty of money,
Right.
And we take that responsibility for allocating those dollars, and then we don't have them to allocate. So
In terms
it's
of
a bad deal.
In
all the
terms
way
of
around.
tax policy, when people fill up their tanks with gasoline, or they pay their $114 or $18 for their license plate, they think that that's
Right.
going to infrastructure, and it used to up until a number of years ago, and now it goes into the general pool of money. And you either have user fees or you don't have user fees for infrastructure, and it's poor tax policy to do this. So aside from bad fiscal policy, it's just poor tax policy to allow this to happen. Anything else? Yes, Director Buchanan.
Yeah, to follow up on Director Melvin's question, that bridge going across I-90 over there, was that after the fact? I mean, there's been huge construction for many months and now years on I-90.
Yeah.
Was that part of the program, or is this an afterthought?
No, it's not really an afterthought. It's been a project that's been, as we've talked about before, we and PACE have been working very closely with the tollway as they do that expansion to actually accommodate enhanced bus service in that corridor. On a parallel path, PACE had been working on, and they got some federal monies to do this, park and ride facilities to sort of start to try to replicate some of what we've done on I-55, but even with some enhanced facilities. So some park and ride locations adjacent to that. Those projects were essentially able to catch up to the timing of the tollway project and take advantage of the construction. So they were always anticipated. What we're trying to do is sort of fast track it to take advantage of the construction work that's actually already happening out there, so they're not coming in after the fact and doing it. So it was always anticipated. We were able to sort of catch it up and keep it running congruent with the tollway timing.
Great. Anything else for Director Redden? If not, we'll move on to item 7, which is the approval of the consent items as they appear. Actually, it's item 6. The approval of the consent items as they appear on the board agenda. These items include 6A, which is the ordinance approving the combined financial report and certifying compliance with the RTA recovery ratio requirements for 2015. The ordinance approving and releasing the RTA 2015 comprehensive annual report. 6C is the ordinance authorizing the quarterly capital amendment for the second quarter of 2016. And 6D is an ordinance modifying and restating the RTA interest rate risk management policy. Is there anything else that the board would like to be removed or added to this or voted on separately? If not, let's take all of the consent items together on one motion. Can I have a motion? Director McGallis moves that we approve 6A, B, C, and D all as one on the consent items, seconded by Director Christopher Melvin. Is there leave for the attendance roll call? Seeing no objection, leave is granted. And
16 ayes.
Thank you, 16 to 0. Item 7 is the approval of contract and procurement items as they appear on our board agenda. The first is 7A, an ordinance authorizing a contract for IT augmentation services for application development and operations. Leanne, do you have anything to say on that? You want to say anything on each of these as we go through or not?
Do you want to just read all three of them?
Yeah, sure will. And then you can talk on all three. 7B is an ordinance authorizing a contract for task order for business process optimization and ERP projects. And 7C is the ordinance authorizing a contract for website website migration, hosting, and maintenance as we I think start to outsource some more of this activity. So with that, Leanne, anything you want to add to that? And if anyone has any questions of the executive director or comments, we'll entertain those too. Yes.
Leanne, are all these going out for bid, for public bid?
These were, well, the A and B were all publicly bid. C, we are actually piggybacking on a publicly bid Cook County contract with Clarity to realize their hourly and service rates as part of that.
Yeah, and the last one, Anthony, it saves us a lot of money to piggyback with Cook County, and they've gone through all their procurement processes on this as well.
Just one other question. Will there be any minorities or women taking a lead on any of these?
Do you want to speak to those?
Well, Clarity is a
is
DB.
minority-owned firm.
And Plant
And they're in
Moran,
two of these.
yeah, Plant Moran is not, but, that is DB, an MB, DB. And then Clarity, of course, is WB, an MB and a BEP, which is a business enterprise program. So yes, they're either the prime or there's a goal.
There's a subset in every one of these contracts.
Great. Yes, Director Friga.
I have
Morning.
a question.
Yes, sir.
Is VTech Solutions a woman-owned firm, or is that a man-owned firm? I look at their vendors' contracts of certification, and it has two contrary designations there.
Yeah, VTech Solutions is I guess a MeBe-Weebie, so it's a woman-owned firm, which is also qualifies as a minority-owned firm.
So it's both. It's woman and minority-owned.
Is
The
what-
woman is also a minority. Let's just say it that way.
Thank
So
you.
it receives the two designations.
Okay. Can I have a motion to do these all on one roll call? Director Lewis, thank you very much. Moves and seconded by Director Don Totten. Is there leave for the attendance roll call on this? Seeing no objection, leave is granted. And
16 ayes.
That is also approved. Item 8 is new business, and this one is for Director Friga, who was at a luncheon that Jeremy LaMarche and Leanne Redden and I attended last week of the Illinois Chamber of Commerce and the Regional Transportation Authority. I, on behalf of all of you, signed a statement of support for the National Guard and the Reserve that just said that we certainly support these men and women who are in harm's way and serve us every day. And if any members of the Guard or Reserve, and we do have we have several veterans that work for the RTA, John, but if any members of the Guard or Reserve come to apply for positions at the RTA, we certainly encourage the Guard and Reserve to do that. But we're on record, and I'll give this to Susan Massal and Leanne. You and Susan can figure out where to display this at the RTA. But we certainly are an organization that supports the National Guard and the Reserve at any time, but especially in this time in our nation's history. So, John, in fact, the gentleman at the booth grabbed me and he said, "One of your directors was just here," and I said, "Well, I have one director, and I mentioned your name, and they go, 'That's who it was.'" So, thank you for always making us aware that this is also a group that we need to encourage and support whenever we can. So thank you, John, very, very much. All right. Any other items of new business before us? Jeremy, you have anything to report on Springfield other than they're supposed to adjourn next week, and you'll be down there seeing if we do get a regular state budget?
Supposedly they're going to be in session Wednesday and Thursday of next week, but we'll see if that's the case.
And we need an authorization to spend the bond issue that the state just went out with.
A reappropriation of capital funds, yeah, that's what we need.
Okay. All right. If not, we'll move on to one other announcement. As a reward for the hard work of the board and the accomplishments of our staff, and it's nice to have that clean audit for the first half of the year, all of this hard work, we are going to cancel our July 21st board meeting. This allows summer vacation schedules and other things for the staff. It makes it easier for them to accommodate their families. But that being advised, the August board meeting will be back to a heavy agenda. And the next meeting for the RTA board will be August 25th. That's pushing it back by a week, I believe, right, Leanne? So make sure, and I've got to make myself a note. I think when Leanne asked and suggested we move it to the 25th, that's also primarily for those of us who still have children in schools and other things. It allows us to make sure the summer is sort of over. So August 25th is the next regular board meeting. We'll start at 8:30 as we always do, and just make sure that you mark your calendars for August 25th. It's 1 week later than we had previously scheduled. Next, executive session. If there's no further business to come before the public portion of the board meeting, Nadine, our general counsel, will you cite the exceptions for why we go into a closed session?
Pursuant to subsections 2C21 and 2C11 of the Open Meetings Act, if the board would vote to adjourn from executive session, we could then move on to that discussion.
Great. Can I have a motion on that? Moved by Director DeWitt, seconded by Director Pang. I don't believe there's any other business for us to come back to. So with that will be the adjournment resolution, and we will go immediately into executive session across the hall. Everybody enjoy your summer, and hopefully the White Sox and the Cubs continue to win, and when we come back in August, they'll both be firmly in first place. We are adjourned. Thank you.